War Eagle Auburn family members, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together, we sit down, and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. We tend to be heavy on the Auburn sports here, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching this live or on the replay. We appreciate you hanging out with us just to spend a few minutes of your hard-earned time with us, even if it's just for a few seconds. On this live stream, backed by request, is a post-game reaction show for Auburn versus South Carolina in men's basketball. Your Auburn Tigers get the win 81-66, improving their record, making them look even more dominant. So we're going to break down the action, thoughts from this game. Want to hear your reactions as well in the comments section below. We'll be bringing some of those up and talking about those throughout the show tonight. As you come into the stream, do a couple things for us. If you enjoy this type of content, please do make sure you smash that like button, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter as well. We encourage you guys to come on over to YouTube if you're over there, but you can enjoy it over on those platforms if you like. We'll be able to see and respond to some of your comments too. A lot of you know the drill and are doing it right now. Post your city, your state, international, if you're international, where you're watching from right now. We'd love to hear from you. And obviously a War Eagle is very welcomed with those posts about where you're watching from. So that covers the basis of what we're talking about, how we operate here. And I think with that, we're ready to get started. How about them Auburn Tigers? Wow. I mean, it's almost becoming redundant at this point to talk about how good they are. There used to be a time where when we started doing podcasts on our network, that it was really boring to talk about Auburn basketball because they were losing all the time. And I hate to say it, but it's not boring, but it's almost kind of being redundant now. Auburn's really good at basketball. Not perfect, and I think you saw some of that rear its ugly head at the very back half of the South Carolina game, but you did see a very formidable, Auburn Tiger team that when they face a few bumps in the road, whether those be self-inflicted or those be just the team that they're facing be really good and have some great runs, they're able to withstand it because of the type of talent that is there. So that's kind of my initial thoughts about what I saw during this game. We'll get into some more reactions, but I want to start saying hello to some of you that have already assembled here. We got David Wells, one of our Booster Club members and channel members. Thank you, sir, always for your support. Neil White up here in East Cobb with me. Thank you, sir, for being here from Leeds. We got Thomas. Blake over on Facebook says 100% from free throw, 22 points for Wendell Green Jr. Blake is like, I don't know if I can claim away from him being the biggest Wendell Green fan, but Blake being a former point guard, well, not former. I don't think you're ever not a basketball player. If you're a basketball player, you're never not a point guard if you were a point guard. Him being a point guard in his past and currently, he's very fond of Wendell Green, and I understand why. The dude's an absolute beast. WT Gardner from Pelham checking in here. Let's see who else is in. We got West Palm Beach checking in. A couple of new faces on Facebook, it looks like, from Fort Payne. Thanks for being here. Trying to catch up on some of the comments here. Elkmont, Alabama, right on the line of I-65, just north of Athens. I have never heard of Elkmont, but welcome, Chris Ray. Thomas says, I know I picked KD for my favorite player on a previous stream. Got to say Jabari is a close second. Tough call. Here's the thing that I would react to that, Thomas. You could name not endless, because there's only 20-something players on the team, but you could name a player every single night and have it be your favorite player, and you can make a case for them because this team is that loaded, that talent. Personally, I'm probably the biggest fan of Laura Behrman because of the walk-on story. I was a former walk-on at AUM, so I have kind of a connection there with someone who comes in, pays their dues, earns their time, and is making the most of it. So Laura Behrman's going to be my favorite. Then it's probably like Jalen Williams, just out of respect for what type of player he's been. But yeah, everybody else share your favorite player right now, not just specifically for this game, but who you just like the most overall. And Jabari, there's no wrong answer here. Jabari is the easy answer, but that's not a wrong answer. There's several players to like on this team. We've got Indiana checking in. Ambitious engineer. What are you ambitious with? Darius Whitlow, good to see you. You changed your name, buddy, so I'm gonna have to get used to seeing that. Cobra, I have to start calling you, from Opelika. Let's see. So here's the funny thing, and I appreciate you guys being here. I know Auburn Twitter right now is focused on the memes, and that's where most of you that are even watch on Twitter, you're like, I gotta get back to the memes. And so I know that we're not gonna have a big audience over there, but if you're watching on Twitter, please do say hello. The Berminator, that is a great name. I might have to steal that from you, sir. That is a great name. Overall, literally everyone. He is a bad man. So, what stuck out to you guys tonight? Some of you have already kind of said those things, so go ahead and share those in the chat right now. I would love to hear, like, whether it's a player, a stat, a moment that stuck out to you most. I actually took some notes tonight because there were so many things. Usually I can kind of plug all these things away in my head and just talk about them later. But tonight there were so many cool and interesting things happening that I wanted to write them down. David, again, with his generosity, is unmatched. Thank you, sir, for your continued support here. Thank you for that super chat. He is a Cobra. I'm going to call him Cobra just so it doesn't mess me up. Yeah, he's naming everybody now at this point. That's basically who you can just start listing the entire team as your favorite players. Let's talk about that off at the start here. Alan Flanagan's out tonight for medical issues, depending on who you talk to, who you see post. I haven't seen the official post on what it exactly was. I'm going to start referring to it, and I know this seems a little bit kind of nitpicky, as C plus, because you never know these days when something's going to ding you for even mentioning the word. And so I want to avoid that, but I think you understand when I say C plus. There was rumors that it was going to be C plus protocols that he was falling under, which makes sense with what's going on after holidays and all that stuff. All college sports, all sports are dealing with that, and just general population. But for whatever reason, a medical issue, he's out tonight. I don't expect that to be, long term, which is, that's what it was. We can see him back very soon. But it does make some interesting things, start to take place with this team in terms of how you try to mesh everybody together, how you fit all the pieces together, because you had hoped when Alan Flanagan came in, this was going to start the process of getting the pieces together, how everybody was going to work together going forward. Well, this is kind of a little bump in the road, not just for Flanagan, but for the team as well. We'll talk about that in just a second. We got a new member to the channel. Woo, Thomas. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your support. You can become a channel member too by hitting that join button if you're watching. I think it's on everything. It's easier to get to it on a desktop. Somehow on iPhones and regular phones, it just messes up sometimes, but you can give it a try. It's easier to do it on the desktop version of it. Just hit the join button. It's $1 a month. I think it's actually 99 cents a month, but I just say $1 for simplicity. All right. So with that, Flanagan out for the game. The thing that I want you guys to think about with this, though, potentially out with C plus, as we call it here. It is a pro in a couple of different ways. That Alan Flanagan is coming back from a major injury, and while he seemed to be all well and good, this is an extra bit of rest. He kind of got to come in, play a couple of games, really work on it and in real time, in real speeds, with people banging up against you, and he kind of gets to rested. Now, that's not a huge advantage for Alan Flanagan, but at the same time, it is something that you could probably take away as a pro of this. The con is what I've already talked about. It kind of messes with the rhythm because the team has spent all non-conference working towards how they're going to work together without Alan Flanagan, and now they've got to insert him back in, and then they're pulling him back out. And so there's just this ebb and flow that has to come with trying to work him back into the lineup, because even when he's been here the last couple of games, he's been a decent contributor. So you can see that you need to have him out there playing when he gets in there, when he's healthy and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully this will be a very short stint for him. I've been wanting to do a video about what the lineup should or could look like in certain situations, because I find it very intriguing, the pieces, the puzzles that Coach Bruce Pearl has to work with on this team, and has the opportunity to, is the great way to think about it. But it's a challenging thing to get all of these people some playing time. And you're going to see players who even played well in this game, like Chris Moore, continue to struggle to find time. So I'm happy he's getting an opportunity to do this right now when he has, some players out and things like that. Let's see. Cobra says, I doubt Flanagan goes pro this year. I would say with missing non-conference play, he would have to have an outstanding, conference play in postseason. And I think, when you say this too, you don't mean this as a slight towards him, but it's just kind of looking at that objectively. Like I'm saying, I could see where it'd be a little bit harder for him to get further in the draft than he would have placed last year, if at all, because he did test the waters last year, unless he just goes bonkers, which is possible. So I would love to have him back for another year. And think about that. You're going to have probably 1, 2, maybe 3 people go pro this year. If you bring a lot of these guys back, it's going to bode really well for next year too. Let's see here. Kessler keeps his play up. He may very well join Jabari in the lottery. And I'm getting worried about that. I honestly. And by the way, I see a lot of our regulars now starting to jump into the chat. I know we started a little bit early. That's if we keep doing these, if you guys keep wanting these to happen after the games, then I'm probably going to have to set it as a certain time afterwards for certain reasons where it gives me a buffer, and just know that we'll start as soon as we can after the game. So for those of you that are just getting here, I see a few regulars here like Corey. Sorry about that. We started a little bit early without you. But yeah, Kessler, if he keeps this up, man, I'm worried we're going to lose him, because he has just, we're finding less time to talk about Jabari because of how good he's doing. Let's just look at what Kessler did tonight. I've got the stats pulled up over here. Walker Kessler on the night, 12 points, 5 for 5 from the field. Granted, most of them were dunks and just easy lay-ins and stuff like that. 10 rebounds for a double-double for him. Only 2 turnovers, 29 minutes of play. He only gave up 1 personal foul. He's 100% on his free throws. I don't know what more you can ask for out of a big man. Scoring in double-digit rebounds, not really factoring too much into personal fouls and turnovers and stuff like that. Maybe 1 less would be great, but still, that's outstanding from Walker Kessler tonight, and he's been that way for quite some time. Is he not already a first rounder? I said when we started this season that Walker Kessler really needed to perform extremely well to get drafted, much less have an opportunity to go and explore that. Just because I think he had somewhat of for him and what was expected of him, a slower start at North Carolina, and transitioning over here, he didn't know how he was going to mesh in. But just seeing how he is flourishing here, I don't see how you don't at least go test the waters this year. So you need to prepare yourself for that, Auburn fans, that the better Walker Kessler plays, the more likely he at least goes for a minute and checks it out. And it's scary to think about, but it's the reality. No, he is not getting more minutes. In fact, he does not get any minutes tonight. And that's just the reality of the situation that's happening. I love Babatunde Akingbola. I wish that he would get more time, but unfortunately, you're going to see him. Chris Moore deserves more time, but it's going to be harder and harder to get him some more. But those 2 guys especially are going to be the ones that suffer from Alan Flanagan getting fully back into the lineup and either becoming a regular starter or a regular part of the rotation. And he will be one of those because he's that good of a talent. We've even seen that in the first few games out of here. Thomas, great point. Depth and time can only help us as we get deep into the season. Yes, and it's great for situations like tonight. Alan Flanagan's out, right? Did you see much of a drop-off? No. You just insert Devin Cambridge back into the line. And that was the interesting thing here, because with Devin Cambridge being out last game, inserting Alan Flanagan into the starting lineup, you start wondering, okay, is this how it's really going to look like? And then I saw Devin come back in before I saw the news that Alan was out with a medical or potentially C+ situation, that it was like, okay, well, he's won it back. And I think Devin deserves, he's proven that he needs to be the starter at this moment, but we'll see how it happens out the rest of the season. Kessler is one of the most significant additions I have ever seen Auburn make. Well, and that's because we've had not great big men outside of like Austin Wiley over the past few seasons. I shouldn't say that. I should say traditional big men, a center, something like that. We haven't had those a lot. Austin Wiley being the main one there. He is something else, and he is showing it. He is You want to talk about flourishing, using that word? That's exactly what Walker Kessler is doing in his time as an Auburn Tiger. Yes. Now, let me say this. I want to give some respect to South Carolina. If you guys have listened to the podcast, I used to be on the main podcast for basketball, Inside the Jungle. It's with Chris and Gray Oldenburg, father-son dynamic. They do the basketball podcast for us called Inside the Jungle here on the network. I used to do that a couple seasons ago with Gray. You will always hear me give much respect to Frank Martin. He is a great basketball coach. South Carolina went to the Final Four not too many seasons ago. Even when South Carolina is not having a great season, they are a formidable opponent. And you can see how quickly he's able to get his teams back into a game. They were done and over with about 10 minutes left in the game. And then all of a sudden went on an amazing run and got it down to what, 8? Very manageable situation with 4 or 5 minutes left. In fact, that's a ball game at that point. So you can see how good this South Carolina team could be. They did have some injuries tonight, but so you should take great pride in the fact that you beat a great coach and a very decent program. I won't know really how good a team they are. If you want some stats on that, this would be considered a quad 1 win for Auburn. For those of you that understand what that means, it's a very good thing for their resume. It's a road win out of the top 75 because they're in the RPI top 50, I think is what it is supposed to be. Either way, it is a quad 1 win if I did my math right. They've beaten Georgetown, Florida State. Those are probably their 2 biggest wins. FSU being the bigger one. Georgetown's kind of been down for a while. Their worst loss is to Princeton at home. But Princeton, you never know with Princeton. They've had a good basketball history. They can sneak up on you and just like a Tiger, because they're the Tigers too, and be pretty decent too. So this is a team that I think is going to factor into the end of Southeastern Conference play. Not saying they're going to win it, not saying they're going to really do much like Auburn, Kentucky, LSU will, but you could see them make a run in the tournament at least. Let's see. Chris says if Flanagan stays healthy and shows signs, he will get back to his normal self. He is gone. Then he's already many mock drafts. Some have him slide to go late first round. This year's draft isn't deep. I haven't looked at how deep or not deep the draft outside of who could potentially go for Auburn is. Probably should do that. It's just one of those things that I haven't invested time in yet. But that is a humongous factor to decide what's going to happen. I think that's part of the reason why Sharif Cooper chose to go, because I think he liked his chance better next year or this past season as opposed to this season going in the draft as a point guard, or at least at that position. He's like 7'5". He's 7'1", but he plays 7'5". He's using every bit of that size. And that's a great point, Steve. They did a great job containing Jabari Smith. And that's how you're going to beat Auburn, is you've got to count on shutting down their best player and everybody else not doing their job. The problem is everybody did their job tonight for the most part. Jabari Smith on the night, what would be a pedestrian night for him. 10 points, only 1 rebound, 1 assist. He got in a little bit of foul trouble early. He still played his normal minutes, but they kind of kept him under control. He made all his free throws. So it's not like he had a bad game. You just kept him in check. So South Carolina, it's a good coach team. They were prepared. They did what they needed to do in one of their check the box categories, contain Kessler, but everybody else was doing such a good job. Yes, WT, that combo is outstanding, and I am so glad it is our combo and nobody else's. I'm very cautious to get on hype trains about everybody was saying this was going to be a championship year, and I'm not saying that yet. It's starting to lean that way though. But it is, we are, hashtag blessed is the way to say it. Scary to think that Flan, Walker, Jabari could be gone in the draft. Hate to have already looked towards next year, but Bruce hopefully eyeing transfers because he's highly likely Auburn will transfer. Has a transfer too. Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of transfers out. You're gonna have a lot of attrition. But if this is an entirely new starting lineup, it is outside of Devin Cambridge, and you could even say it was with Wendell Green starting at one point. So he did a complete changeover, and we were just fine. So at this point, I'm not worried about it. Bruce Pearl can recruit. Bruce Pearl can coach. We got an update from David. Thanks for that on the Cats and LSU. I'm going to be rooting for LSU at this point. We don't play them the rest of the season, if I have the schedule right in my head. We need to be rooting hardcore, as much as it sucks, for Will Wade. Yes, I said that, and the LSU Tigers. The better they look, the better we look, especially when it comes to the end of the season. Auburn's vying to be one of the best teams in the conference, vying to be one of the best teams in the nation, and is trying their hardest to get that one of those number one seeds, which would be really, really beneficial. Let's see here. Trying to roll down here. If Reef stayed another year, we would win the national championship. Yeah. I don't know that we need him, though. I hate to say it. I really hate to say it, because I love Sharif Cooper with every bit of my being. But I don't know that we need him this year. And I thought we would. I was very concerned about point guard play, but you can see the way that the guards are working together, whether it's Zepp taking responsibilities of the point guard to start off the game, and then Wendell comes in and does his magic. Speaking of, Wendell Green Jr., the best player tonight, basically by stats, 22 points, 7 for 15 from the field, only 1 for 5 from his 3-point, because he was shooting from the half court line, basically made one of those ridiculous links. 100% on his free throws. Blake brought that up earlier. 5 rebounds tonight, 5 assists, 28 minutes. He is a starter without being a starter. I mean, there's just no way to cut around that. Like, you just don't put him out there to start. And that's the craziest thing to think about, is I think so many people dismiss Wendell Green because he's not out there starting. Starting doesn't, in especially in a Bruce Pro program, doesn't mean anything. It just means we have too much talent. We got to figure out who gets us off to the best start in the game. Thank you so much, Thomas, for reminding people E2C for life. Dusty's in the house, folks. Team's very deep. Love watching it and hitting. That's a great point. I'm so glad I meant to write that one down in my notes. Mid-range shots. Auburn has been traditionally known, especially the last few seasons dating back to the Final Four run, for just being a run and gun 3-point shot. I would argue tonight was probably one of the best mid-range games that I've seen us play, whether it's Jabari doing turnaround, jumpers. I saw Zepp do some, Wendell do some. We're finishing in the paint, and we're making use of the entire court and not just focusing on destroying people from the 3-point arc and the free throw line. Another update. I know I'm behind, but here you can kind of see how things are going. It's going to be a fun game tonight, so I know a lot of you are probably following that along. Gonna sweep LSU in baseball too this year. I hope so. If Reef stayed, do we get Zepp and Wendell? No. I think I remember Coach Pearl saying this in an interview, that the only reason they were able to get Wendell in is because Sharif left. They wanted him in last year, but didn't have space for him. It's just the reality of it, So, would we love to have Sharif Cooper here? Yes. Am I thankful to have Wendell Green here? Oh, you bet I am. You bet I am. Katie Johnson. So here's what we have happening now, Cobra, is a battle between who's the most beloved in terms of popularity in general, like terms. You got Cardwell, who is just a man of the people, can win over the crowd in an instant. And then Katie Johnson, who's just the king of everything, like energy on that floor. He had a bit of a frustrating game for me tonight, where he would give a turnover, but then he'd take a turnover. So it's kind of like he's a coach's best and worst nightmare, because, and I think somebody even talked about it on the broadcast tonight, you go, oh my gosh, what are you doing? 1 second. Then, oh my gosh, how did he do that in the instance? It's just, he's a frustrating player in many ways for the opponents, but he can be frustrating for you too. Blake, I don't believe Auburn has ever been a number one going into March tournament. I don't think so either. I think they got a 2nd seed one year. Could be wrong. We know we had the 4 seed when we should have had the 3rd seed in Final Four tournament. Excuse me, the Final Four run. So yeah. Kyle, tell Jace to keep Grandpa out of the Facebook page. So Corey's referring to, we just announced in our Facebook group, it's called the Auburn Family Tree, the E2C Network community. So if you want to go over there, you're more than welcome to. I added Jason Phillips. He's a great guy. I'm just now getting to know him, but I love what I know of him so far. Comes on recommendation from an interesting fellow. I'm saying that for Jason's benefit right now. But he has joined me as a moderator on that group. And not that we had to have a moderator, but it's helpful to have extra eyes, not just to keep people in check, but to help generate conversations and content. So yeah, that's what he's referring to tonight. But yes, keep Grandpa out of the Facebook page. Auburn has players at all positions that can win a game any night from all points of the basketball court. And yeah, just like we already talked about, Chris, they're using every part of the floor. Not just when you're running a fast break, when they're settling down into their offense, they're not always settling for the 3-point. It's always felt like for a long time that they were working the ball around just to get to the 3. Now it actually looks like we're working a lot for cuts, meaning backdoor cuts. And the fact of the matter is that our big men are throwing just about as beautiful a passes as our guards are, which is incredible. Let me look at assists real quick. Your leaders are Jasper. No, excuse me. That was fouls. Well, yeah, actually, your assist leader was Wendell Green, Zep Jasper, but Johnson gets one. Jabari gets one. I remember that beautiful backdoor pass he gave. Williams has another great one. That was a good one. Cardwell has one as well. So listen, the sharing of the ball is going all the way around. Does he not lead in the steals yet? The thing that I have up, I think you're referring to KD. Let me pull him up on my little stat thing and we can get exactly a look. He's got 2 steals in this game, and they won't give me stats for the year on this thing. So we'll just have to leave that one at this point. Facebook, Twitter folks, and those of you who are new to YouTube, you had to have been here to understand War Dustbuster. There's a t-shirt. Maybe we'll get into it another time. We are an everything school. I agree, sir. Soccer as well. And we used to have a soccer podcast. We just don't have anybody to do it right now. Weren't we the number 1 seed on the cover of SI? We were ranked number 1 coming into the season, but I think they were referring to, Blake was referring to not being the number 1 seed in the tournament. That was Chris Porter, Mamadou Njai, Damian Fishbag, who was on the call tonight. Scotty Smith, I think this was his name. Plethora of players out there who were just outstanding. And then, you think a couple of years later, you had Marco Killingsworth, you had Kyle Davis, you had Marquise Daniels, just endless amounts of talents right there. All right, your update on the LSU game with 3:55 left. LSU, pull it out for me. Come on. We all like to see Kentucky suffer. All right. What else stuck out to you from this game? Let's see. Let me go back through my notes. See if we talked about Flanagan and him sitting out. I mentioned Chris Moore. I think I'm glad him seeing to get his minutes, and he's making the most of it right now. It's going to keep that in Coach Pearl's mind to give him more time, even when it gets harder with Alan Flanagan back in the mix fully. Respect to South Carolina and Frank Martin. They did a good job of getting our bigs into foul trouble a little bit early, which is a good thing. And yeah, and then Kessler just going beast mode tonight. How do transfers work in basketball, Kyle? That's a great question. I don't have that fully, information fully there. I would assume from how I think it's worked in the past, the transfers work the same way that they would in football. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, unless you have a special circumstance, being a graduate, medical, hardship, C+, as I'm calling it, so we don't get dinged for anything for even mentioning the thing on here. Exemptions, you usually sit out a year. Now, remember, most of these that you saw this year were one-time transfers they used for the whole C+ year thing. So yes, normally they have to sit out a year before they start, but this year's an exception. So don't get used to this amazingness. 59 for LSU at this point. Oh, Thomas, great. I'm glad you are appreciating it. I'm worried about this. It's very bright on my very pale and pasty and very missing hair forehead, but the clearness I can see myself here. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying that. Equipment's getting a little better. One day, hopefully, we won't have to do this from my office in my house, and we'll have a headquarters one day, but that's far off in the future. But you guys are making it possible by being part of the channel, by being part of the Booster Club. Just a quick reminder, I need to start utilizing these things more. Booster Club is available for you guys to check out. I got to pull the thing down here, though, Kyle. Come on, you're better than that. Let me pull this question down real quick. Patreon.com/E2C Network. You can join up for $1 a month, and there's other tiers that you can take advantage of for other things. We got some couple new members. We will see some of those comments in there right now that you can take advantage of, and we got some new members that we'll be shouting out pretty soon here. Corey, you're one of them, by the way. We're supposed to have given you a shout out on social media already, and I failed at that. So just check. That'll be coming up very soon. Yes, great point, Rhodes. The bench play. Let's go look at that. Hold on, let me go back over here and look at the bench points, and just sink this into your mind. 40 points from the bench for Auburn, 11 for South Carolina. Auburn wins 81-66. Do some math in your head real quick, Kyle. 15-point victory. They more than doubled the point margin that they would needed to win. Like that, outstanding from the bench. I mean, Wendell Green is responsible for the majority of those, but every one of the bench players, from Wendell Green, who's basically a starter, to Laura Behrman and Chris Moore, scored tonight. Chris Moore gets 5. Laura Behrman gets 2. He should have had another one if he hadn't missed a layup. But just outstanding depth and performance from everybody on the road. See, when Clint and I did Inside the Jungle podcast here, before we gave it to Chris and Gray, we talked a lot about Auburn basketball would just never have a complete game. While I think he would still have a few gripes to not call this a complete game, Clint would be hard-pressed to make a case that this wasn't the most complete game that Auburn's had on the road in quite some time. Freshly polished head. Thank you for that. That's what happens when you get up into your 30s and all that stuff. You start losing your hair, and it becomes very apparent on this. Thank you for that. So great question. We're not done talking basketball, but just yet. But I know that Cobra has been talking a lot about football. Obviously, we've been focused on basketball tonight. Wednesday nights is fair game. I know most of that conversation is going to be focused on football, so that's kind of what we usually stick on, but we will just bounce everywhere tomorrow, barring some major news. So I'll probably have a football-related topic prepared, but we will really just bounce. It's more about talking to you guys. Phone lines will be open. I want to see you here tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central Eastern Time. I'm not in Alabama anymore. Well, we got to discuss this. It's kind of sad. I didn't know his mother passed. That's very sad. Well, thoughts, and I know it seems contrite, but prayers out to him. That's tough. That's really tough. Let's see here. Love to see us playing more in the paint than in the past. Nice to have players for that to happen. See, that's the thing, is we would have loved to play in the paint more. We just didn't really have the players to do so. We can't forget about you. Prayers for Kyle's hair. Yes. Yes, that's true. That is true. Cobra, it's funny you asked that. We don't have a foot baseball update, but we might have some stuff in the works. Somebody knows who I'm talking about baseball. We'll see what happens. Yes, I agree, Imani. We do need to cover them in prayer tonight. I've been through the loss of a parent myself, and that is not fun. And I'm sure many of you can relate, especially at such a young age for him. But if his mother was as special as I can imagine she was to him, I can imagine how on fire he is going to be to play for her next year. But right now, it's about being with her family and his family, and just getting through this rough part right now. That is sad. No, we listen. That's what we do right here. No wrong time for a joke. We get back and forth about these things. Listen, I'm happy that Imani was here to tell us about that, because those are important things. But we're gonna bounce back, because I'm gonna try to bring some, happiness back to the room now, but that is sad tonight. All right. Let's get some last minute comments. I shouldn't say last minute, kind of sort of final thoughts about basketball tonight, things that stuck out to you, players of the game. Did you notice anything bad tonight? We didn't hear a lot of like complaints. A lot of people talked in the last basketball show about us being a little bit sloppy on transition. What about that? Did you guys feel like we did a better job in transition tonight? And I agree that last game we were a little bit sloppy. But let me know what you thought about that. We hit all my notes on there. I think we talked about the bench, the players that scored the most tonight. I'm going to not gripe too much. My percentage for free throws that I demand is 80%. We have yet to do that this year. I think maybe one time. We got 74% tonight. It's fine. I'll deal with it. 74 is close enough, but I'm very, very upset. Thank you for everybody. Please do smash that like button if you haven't done so already. While you get some final thoughts and comments in, that like buzzed in and out there. It's interesting having a new camera, working through some of those focusing issues and stuff like that. But please do smash that like button. I'm gonna give you a couple of reminders here, and then we'll hit some of those last minute things. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Be here. Open mic night. You can call in, talk to me, have some fun. Anybody can call in. It could get crazy. It could get wild. We won't probably get to all of the comments and questions tomorrow, but it will be fun tomorrow night to have that conversation with you all. Also, check out some of the links in the description. We've talked about some of those already. Becoming a channel member here, such as Thomas Manville, our newest channel member, and we've already called out a lot of you who are channel members already tonight. Those of you that are Booster Club members that take the next step, appreciate that as well. There's also TeePublic where you can get some gear from us, but also some other Auburn-related gear over there as well. You can also do PayPal, any way that you want to support us, but the easiest way and the free way to do it is just to be here, to drop a like, leave a comment, watch the other videos that we're putting out. My hope's to put another one out tomorrow about midday for you all. So I hope that you guys will tune into all of that. Let's see what you guys said here and kind of closing out. Check the 99 NCAA. We were the #1 seed. Okay, well, we're all wrong. All of us that were claiming we hadn't done it yet, we're wrong. We stand corrected. It would have been nice to say this was the first year. Dark horse for the Naismith. Maybe in a world where Jabari Smith doesn't exist, but Jabari Smith is going to be hard to beat for anybody, much less another Auburn player. These complete games will open up Jabari to have a huge standout game, especially once all eyes are on him come March. Yes. The better that his opponents, his teammates do around him, the more attention they're going to draw, the more it's going to open up for him. They're going to not be able to just focus on him. And that's going to make Auburn a deadly team, but that's going to make Jabari even more deadly. Let's see here. Mostly we took care of the ball tonight. Need to do better on free throws. I agree. It's fine. It's good, but 80% is my mark. Corey, thank you guys for your time tonight. I'm only here doing this because you guys show up. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. This Bruce and this team is bringing in so many new fans to the game of basketball. They both have been bringing more and more the last 4 or 6 years. Great way to round our discussion out tonight. Dusty says it's his favorite player to watch. Zepp is an incredible defensive player. Incredible. If I had to say right now, my favorite players are probably Laura Behrman, Zepp Jasper, probably Wendell Green, and that's probably my 3 right now. And I love Jabari. Oh, no. Jalen Williams has got to be in there too. Jalen Williams is probably honestly my number 2, but I'll have to think about that. We'll have a conversation at the end of the year. Who's your favorite players after the end of the season? Because I'm sure that's going to change. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. And you guys help me keep doing this by just showing up and sending the kind words and stuff like that. So thank y'all so very much. Hope to see you guys tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Don't miss it. Open mic night. We'll be talking about anything and everything Auburn. Till then, War Eagle.